Welcome back, PBA LBC League Bowlers. We've been talking with Chris Vi and talking about tape to use in the bowling ball to help your fit and feel. But this time we're going to talk about tape that you can use and other products you can use on your hand to help your fit and feel. Let's take a look. The fingers. We had AJ talk to us one time about, he was cracking on his fingers, and he started using a certain kind of tape on his fingers. Tell me a little more about that also.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it could be a fit thing, but there's sometimes some people just have, naturally they have drier skin and they tend to crack a little bit more than others. And there's definitely some tape that you can, place around the fingers that are gonna protect that skin a little bit better. Some tape is a little bit thinner than others, so you do have to make sure you check grip sizes after you place that tape on.
Yep.
Because if it is a little bit thicker, if it has a little bit more of a covering, you may have to go up in grip sizes.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't be able to get your fingertips into the ball again, especially if it's on both sides of the thumb or the finger or all the way around. Yeah, so okay.
Yeah, it almost has to be on both sides on the fingers just because of how much friction it creates, especially in the rubber grips.
Yeah.
Because if it's only on one side, it naturally is probably just going to rip off after a shot or two. It also kind of depends on how tight that you like your finger grips as well. I have vacuum grips in mine, which are basically, there's a little bit more of an opening at the top of the hole. So we use smaller grips, so it allows it to expand so we can have a little bit of a tighter feel on the fingers. And tape usually doesn't work so well on those because there's just so much friction, and it's just such a tight feel that usually only a few shots it kind of wants to rip off. But it is something that you can definitely look into, and maybe just go up a half size of grips to where that'll allow a little bit more room for that, and you won't have to worry about cracking as much.
So again, for league bowlers out there, so that's great for league night and even for tournaments. But again, some of the first tournaments I went to, next thing you know, I'm bowling more than the 3 games. I've torn my thumb in different spots. I've had, it swells up, and I've go through all my tape, things like that. Is there any other advice for them as far as those kind of situations?
Yeah, well, obviously, when everyone says that, their thumb's tearing up or their thumb's, whatever, they got a blister or whatever. Well, first of all, double check your fit just to make sure. People's hands change. Just because you're an adult and you've had the same fit for 10 years, probably needs change, right? I mean, just as we get older, flexibility kind of goes away a little bit more. So you got to keep up with it. You got to do that. But if you and your pro shop operator agree that the fit looks pretty good, it's coming off your hand well, all those things are checked off. There's definitely some protective tape that you can put on your thumb itself, not necessarily in the bowling ball, but on your thumb itself. And there's different levels of thickness. So if you already have a pretty tight thumb hole and you like that feel, there's pretty thin tape, so it's not going to take up so much room. And it usually comes off of the bowling ball a little bit quicker. There's not as much friction there. Or there's a little bit thicker tape, and it comes off the thumb a little bit slower. So, if you have a larger or a looser fitting thumb hole, you could use that tape, and it will kind of help hold on to the ball for you if you don't necessarily like the feel of the white tape. You can mess around with that as well. So there's different levels of that thickness. And I would say 95% of the guys, out here are using that tape on that thumb.
On their thumb.
Yeah, just obviously we can bowl anywhere from, 6 probably at a minimum to 12 to 16 games in a day, depending on the format. So obviously those long tournaments and things like that, those guys got to make sure that they don't have any issues with their thumb.
Yeah, I actually like to have a good texturized piece on my thumb. It helps protect it. It actually helps me from swelling, because I think there's less friction then going on my thumb. And so I just take a piece of tape out and put this tape on my thumb, and now I'm right back where I started.
Yep.
And so that allows, and then when I have less change in my thumb, then I go through less tape and I have that better feel longer.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of that it doesn't make you feel like you have to hold on to it, so you don't squeeze.
Yeah.
And when you're squeezing, you're going to swell up quicker.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. You're putting more pressure onto that, and it's just naturally your thumb's going to get larger, and then you're going to have more issues. And hey, I need to open up this thumb a little bit more. It's already it's already too big. Well, and then you're holding on to it more, and then you're holding to it more. Oh man, this thumb's way too big. Can you reslug this?
Yeah, that fit is key, and I know you know this, but for the league bowlers out there, if you're squeezing, that means you have to let go. And if you have to let go, you have to let go at the exact same time every time. You are adding an inconsistency to your game, and you're not going to bowl as well.
Yeah, and I like to tell people, if your thumb's in the bowling ball and it's kind of in this narrow point, like as soon as you start to squeeze, if you see how much wider your thumb actually gets, it has to be like you have to have a larger thumb hole for that to be able to clear.
Yeah.
And so just naturally you have to make the thumb too big, and then you have to hold on to it, or else you're dropping it behind you, and you're gonna look like the Wii bowling characters jumping around in the background. So it's one of those feel things where it's got to be snug enough to where you don't feel like you have to hold on to it for it to stay on your thumb.
All right, good information.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a lot of detail about tape, but I've gotten tons of questions about tape. We haven't really talked much about it, but also, a lot of good information on the interchangeable thumb. So I hope the league bowlers out there learned something. I hope that was important to you and valuable to you, and I hope you continue to support our sport. Thank you very much.